All right. Welcome in, everybody. I'm going to give it some time, make sure everything is working. Let's see. Hmm. All right, everybody. If you can hear me, let me know. If I'm quiet, let me know. Yeah, just let me know anything in the comments so I know that everything is working loud and clear. If at any point you just see the side of my face, I'm over here reading the chat and reading all the comments and everything like that. So that's where I'm going to see all of your questions and all of that stuff. So again, I apologize. Hello, Darth Vader. All right, we're gonna give it a good 5 minutes or so before we start with the forecast and all. So yeah, sounds like sounds like I'm loud and clear, so that's good. The goat is live. I don't know about the goat. That might be a bit of an overstatement. The goat might be a bit much. Yeah, and let me know where you're watching from as well, for sure. I see we got Pickens, South Carolina, which is my hometown. So hello, Dad. Good to see you. Watching from South Florida. Yep, gonna get some rough weather down that way for sure. Watching from Tampa. Awesome. Good to see some of these Florida folks tuning in because again, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty here. We're only really a day or so away from starting to feel those impacts down that way. All right, you can hear me. Awesome. Hello from Central Florida. Hello, Catherine. Audible I am. Yes. There you go. Watching from Virginia Beach. Will Virginia Beach see any rain from this? Yeah, I think Virginia Beach will at least get some rain out of it. Could be worse, though, for sure. Virginia Beach, the track, luckily, is on your side a little bit this time around. And you're kind of a little displaced from the center, but definitely could see some impacts that way. Other folks watching LJ, Georgia. Yeah, the mountains of Georgia are going to get it good, I tell you, especially that rain concern and a flooding threat. I'm really watching for you folks out in the Georgia area. We could see big time flooding, not just from Helene, but from kind of prior to Helene too. I'm watching the threat of multiple rounds of storms moving through that area. In fact, today we have multiple tornado warnings out there right now. Which I mean, I won't say I forecasted and or didn't forecast. I talked about it this morning in the video, but looking back at it in retrospect, probably could have talked a little bit more about that tornado threat today. We've got a tornado warning. Actually, let me grab my phone 1 second so I can look at that on my phone. All right, and I'm back just like that. Yeah, we've got a couple tornado warnings out there, which we're not going to talk too much about because I think these are some warnings that we probably don't have any tornadoes on the ground for. But I will say the storm threat today overperformed for sure. We did have a slight risk issued from the National Hurricane Center, or excuse me, from the Storm Prediction Center rather. Got hurricanes on the brain here. But yeah, big time storms out there. Even in the Charlotte area, down towards Columbia, South Carolina, the Knoxville area had some good storms today. And then I think a confirmed tornado back into Indiana or Ohio, which we talked about in this morning video as well. Did I see the recon 990 millibars? We're actually going to go check the recon here in a second. So I have it pulled up. I can go ahead and refresh that page. Again, I had all this ready to go. We've got a storm flying in there right now, so we're going to get some updated data here. And yeah, it looks like they've got a storm that has just recently gone into it. So we can take a quick look at recon before we get started here. Yeah, you're right. Look at that. That pressure definitely getting down there. And again, this was kind of the big caveat to the storm is what happened today and then going into the first half of tomorrow before the storm kind of crosses the Yucatan and into the Gulf. And I think I've been calling for a forecast of a category 3 to 4 storm. The models have gone back and forth. 1 second we've had category 5 on some models, and next we've had, category 1. I'm sticking to my guns. I think category 3 to category 4 landfall right into the Big Bend of Florida, probably just north of Cedar Key is my forecast. And again, we'll dive into that here for sure in a second. But again, that's kind of what I'm thinking. All right, folks, I think we've let enough time for people to join in. Let's go ahead and start talking here because, again, a lot to discuss. And we're going to go ahead and start by taking a look at what is now officially, finally, Tropical Storm Helene. And I'll tell you, this has felt a little bit like a marathon. I was kind of teasing this storm on the channel for more than a week now. I showed you multiple thumbnails that said big storm coming, and I had plenty of people in the comments grilling me for it, saying, you have no idea what you're talking about. This isn't going to happen. And now here we are with Tropical Storm Helene. And just this little tidbit of information from the National Hurricane Center: Helene is forecasted to be in the 90th percentile in storm size at that latitude that it'll be at when impacting Florida. So that means 90% of tropical systems are smaller than what Helene is going to be when making landfall into Florida. So again, I told you a big storm was coming. I wasn't lying to you. It's on the way. We're going to see it as it kind of tracks up here through the Gulf of Mexico. So again, big time storm, not only intensity-wise, but size-wise as well. All right, so the storm has become considerably more organized today. And the center of circulation kind of right here into this area, and you're noticing we're getting this convection to finally fire up over the center. We had some wind shear the storm was dealing with throughout the day today, and it kind of looked messy this morning. It has gotten much better organized, and I think we're getting towards that stage to where overnight tonight into tomorrow, rapid intensification is on the table as the storm really moves into a pristine environment. And look at this banding. I mean, this is for a storm that, is just now getting its act together, this is quite a beautiful looking system on satellite. But as beautiful it is, it's also equally as scary just knowing that this is going to move towards populated areas and bring big time impact. So again, just the current view of the storm, it's getting that look for sure. And we'll take a look at our infrared satellite as well here. And you'll kind of see the same general idea here. We're getting a storm that is becoming bigger. It's becoming better organized. And again, that center, let me pick a color you can see better, that center of the storm getting now wrapped up under this convection here as wind shear has calmed down and we've got plenty of moisture. Again, just this big bubble of moisture around the storm system. And ocean waters that are quite frankly the warmest in the Atlantic Ocean, arguably some of the warmest ocean temperatures in the world. I saw Eric Webb, who is a meteorologist in New Mexico, was posting the chart today, and the Atlantic is running as above average as anywhere else in the world here in the temperature department. And I've been mentioning this, it's really been a ticking time bomb. The Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico has just been priming up all season, waiting for a storm, and now here we are into late September. A storm is formed, and it's going to take advantage of that environment here, unfortunately, in a big time way, I think. All right, so I know we talked about this a little bit already. Let's go back and let's take a little bit more of a look here at the recon. So I'll go ahead and pull up a couple different maps here, and we'll take a look at it. I'll try to explain it a little bit. So if you're unfamiliar with this, basically what this is a division of the Air Force that works with the National Hurricane Center that actually flies into hurricanes and collects data for us that we can put into our computer models and kind of get a better gist of what we're expecting to happen. And they're out there flying right now. They're going to be flying through this thing nonstop between now and landfall. After that, they won't need to because we'll have surface stations that can get the data for us. And we're even going to get some buoys that this will move over for sure as well. But again, hurricane hunters out there, they're finding this much tighter level of circulation here. And again, getting wrapped up under this convection. You're seeing this big burst of convection right over the center. And because of that, as somebody in the comments mentioned, we have seen a appreciable drop in pressure here. Latest recon pass found pressures down near probably 991, 992 millibars, which is a good almost 10 millibar drop from what they were finding earlier in the day this morning. Also seeing some flight level winds here up and around 45 knots. So again, a tropical storm, deepening pressure is what we're seeing here with this data that the hurricane hunters are finding. Again, this is kind of what was expected. We were expecting some pretty big intensification with the storm during the evening hours of today. All right, I'm just going to read a couple comments here real quick. And again, all of your specific location questions I will try to answer for sure here as we go through this. I'm doing good, by the way. Thanks to everyone who's asking. I had a busy day at school. Thursdays are quite... not Thursday, today's Tuesday, but Thursdays as well are quite busy days for me. So I was up and at it this morning, recorded that video, went off to class, and then I just got back like 30 minutes before I'm recording this. So it's been a gauntlet, a lot of calculus and physics today, as well as some meteorology, luckily, so it kind of helped to balance it out a little bit. But yeah. All right, and again, all these locations I'm going to talk about, I'll go back and we'll re-up on questions at the end for specific locations maybe I didn't answer your questions for, and you can let me know that in the comments. All right, let's go and dive into things a little bit more here. Again, we talked about that. This is something new I normally don't bring up on the channel, and let's see if I can get this to work properly. It might work, it might not. Let's see, the best way to do this probably would be to move my face over here and set this up right over here. So this is a website that is great for tropical data, and unfortunately it's not going to fit on the screen perfectly, but we will manage here and do our best. And basically, just the reason I want to show this to you is not for the track, but for what we're going to see here condition-wise. So if I go ahead and turn on deep layer shear here, this shows where we're seeing wind shear in the atmosphere. And again, the storm is this little white kind of storm signal that you see on the map, and what you'll notice, wind shear has calmed down significantly over the storm. It's kind of in this pocket of relatively light deep layer shear, which again is just indicating the environment becoming better primed, and I just made it disappear. Oops. Let's see, where is it? There we go. Just indicating that the environment is becoming more primed here for a strengthening system. And that's something that we're going to have to definitely monitor here. Again, this was the thought that things would stay, things would be a little rough this morning for the storm. But as we go through today, I think really now through the first half of Wednesday, through the second half of Wednesday, the storm is going to be in its prime environment. And that's when rapid intensification is going to be the most likely. And if I turn on dry air here as well, let's see if we can find dry air here. We've got vorticity, which we know vorticity because that's where the storm is, obviously. I know there's a dry air button on here somewhere. I will turn lightning on as well. That's be kind of fun to look at. And actually, the lightning product is going to do a bit of a help here in explaining some things. I know there's dry air on here, right? Dry air. There we go. Sorry. Again, we're kind of doing this on the fly. This is kind of the fun of doing these things live. So actually, let me turn lightning off and then we'll just look at dry air. So looking at dry air, again, there's nothing near the storm right now. It's in a very moist pocket here in the atmosphere right over the storm system. Again, in that green area, you're not seeing those kind of yellowish colors showing up that would indicate any dry air. And if we turn dry air off and I turn lightning on, I want you to notice kind of this ring setting up around the storm. This is why I'm concerned that the dry air down the road isn't going to help us a lot. The storm is kind of creating its own environment here, and it's really kind of created a shield. Or again, you see this ring of lightning, that's kind of trapping all the moisture in near the storm and keeping the dry air out. And that, again, could help the storm fight off some dry air on down the road, which was one of the caveats we were hoping might help us out, and it could still. We'll have to wait and see, but I think the trend here is for the storm to, again, strengthen still up into major hurricane status. All right. Got a lot of viewers, by the way, so thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it. Getting a lot of questions about wind gusts. Don't worry, we're going to get to that, so just hang tight here. We're going to talk about wind gusts, and I know that's something a lot of people further inland think about. And I'll add here, obviously, a lot of you are asking about winds, but the flash flooding threat is going to be just as big of a deal as the wind threat for some folks. So do not, let your guard down by any means. All right, latest track here with watches, warnings, and watches, warnings, and advisories. Let's take a look at this. And before we dive into the storm itself, we've got severe thunderstorm watches up for much of Kentucky here through Tennessee. We're even seeing some strong storms through North Carolina and Virginia. Just had a tornado warning expire in Virginia, actually. So it's an active week out there. In fact, we also have, where we don't have a watch currently, we've got a lot of severe thunderstorms and tornado warnings up here through the southern tier of Michigan and northern Ohio. So it's just an active weather week out there, not just with Helene. You folks well inland seeing some active weather here as well. So again, just something of note there. But talking about Helene, and again, this future track and future watches and warnings, go ahead and give this a second. They even added storm surge on here, which is interesting, which we'll look at storm surge separately. But basically, anywhere you see these really dark kind of, and I'm going to take the cone off for a second so we can see it a little bit easier here. Anywhere you see these like hot pink colors here near Valdosta, these are hurricane watches, and I want you to note how far inland the hurricane watches go. Again, this goes from the Florida coast all the way up into portions of South Georgia, well into the Valdosta area, kind of up here towards the Tifton area, close to Waycross, Thomasville, Georgia. We're going to see hurricane force winds well inland with this storm system. I can almost guarantee it to you. And it's going to be a problem, quite frankly. And this is an area that we haven't seen a big windstorm in a while, a good year or two probably. So we've had a lot of trees that have kind of died off a little bit that have yet to fall over, and this is really going to probably do it to them. Now, the more salmon colors you see here, back up towards Savannah, Jacksonville, up through really the entire east coast of Florida, these are tropical storm watches, very likely to be upgraded to tropical storm warnings. And in fact, we now have hurricane warnings in effect here in kind of these dark red areas from Tallahassee all the way back down towards the Big Bend and even into the Tampa Bay area. We're seeing some hurricane warnings and then tropical storm warnings in these darker red colors back over towards Lakeland and Orlando. And then back down towards the Cape Coral area, Naples, and Fort Myers. And I'll tell you, if you're watching from Tampa Bay, Cape Coral, Fort Myers, and you're not in a hurricane warning, I'm still very concerned about the storm surge, and we'll look at that here in a second. I've had a question about Ian in the comments here. This storm is not going to take an Ian track. It'll be close in terms of kind of how it's curving and all, but it's going to be much further up the coast. Again, Ian kind of hooked right here into Fort Myers and kind of into the Port Charlotte area and brought just devastating storm surge to that region. This could be a similar storm in terms of impacts, maybe not quite as strong as Ian, but still, I think we're going to see big time storm surge, but it'll likely be further up the coast here towards the Big Bend. And when I say Big Bend, because I know that some people have a different definition. When I say Big Bend, I say from Tallahassee, kind of here to where things flatten out. So this bending part of the coast here through Cedar Key, the Perry area of Florida, and kind of that region is what I consider the Big Bend. So again, expecting landfall, I think somewhere into that region, specifically the northern side up towards Tallahassee. So again, a lot of watches and warnings. Latest track, let's go back to that here. Again, the latest from the National Hurricane Center is a Category 3 major hurricane with winds topping out at around 120 miles an hour or 100 knots here. And you can see that track again, just like I said, kind of right up through the Big Bend and even portions of the Panhandle there with the line basically going right over Tallahassee. And then further inland, check out this. Still expecting a tropical storm well inland through the entire state of Georgia. And this may not weaken to a depression until it gets to Tennessee. So, I mean, you folks into Georgia, the western half of the Carolinas, Columbia, Augusta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Hickory, I'm very concerned about a wind threat here. And again, it's been a while since we've had a windstorm of really any magnitude through this part of the country. Probably it's been at least 2 or 3 years since a tropical system ripped right through here of this intensity. So it's gonna be a big deal, and then eventually it'll kind of die out here over the Ohio River Valley. So that's kind of the latest track. Let's go ahead and dive into some model guidance here. And you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and skip this one because I think we've already gone. Let's see, we've gone 20 minutes here, so we'll skip over that and kind of zoom right into the southeast. Actually, no, I lied. We're not going to skip that. It's a live video for a reason, right? We got plenty of time to talk here. All right, let me look at a couple comments here. Again, we got 300 people watching. That is awesome. Thank you, folks. Again, consider sharing with somebody that you think might could use it. Also, I'll add, we are knocking on the doorstep of 10,000 subscribers, so huge thanks to everybody. And if you're not currently subscribed, go ahead and do it. Maybe you'll be the lucky number 10,000. So let me, again, read some of these comments real quick. Thank you for subscribing, Silver Ace. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of chat about Ian. I know Ian, unfortunately, Ian and Michael, both of those hurricanes, kind of left a sore spot with a lot of people. So I don't want anyone to get stressed or anything by this storm, but it is important to know that it does have the potential to have that sort of effect in a different community. But again, I don't think this is a storm that's going to go right through Fort Myers or go right up through Mexico Beach. Kind of be somewhere in between, actually. All right, let's go ahead and keep on going here. Keep on trucking along. Again, I think this is going pretty well and pretty productive. So we'll go ahead and, again, dive into some model guidance. I'm going to show you the GFS. I'm not going to show you the European. I'm going to show you the GFS, and then I'm going to show you some mesoscale models and hurricane models because these are the models I think that are really handling the storm quite well. All right, so latest GFS here, initializing. This is running as we speak. Just came out, coming in at about 900 and, let me back this up. This is 2 a.m. Let's get this to, if we can go any further back here. All right, yeah, so initializing at around 998 millibars. And again, hurricane reconnaissance is in there, and they're finding pressure even a tad lower than that. But what's important with the GFS, and the reason I think it's doing well, is it strengthens the storm pretty rapidly. And we've got a borderline hurricane by the time this is getting into the Gulf of Mexico for our Wednesday morning and afternoon. And I think that's a pretty realistic timetable. I would expect this to be upgraded to Hurricane Helene again sometime tomorrow, as we get some pretty potent intensification overnight tonight. Now, after that point, the storm really hits the boosters here. Again, I'm expecting at least borderline rapid intensification during the day Wednesday. And then at that point, it begins to approach the Florida coastline. So a couple fail modes here to talk about. If the storm happens to, drift enough off towards the south and west, it could clip the Yucatan Peninsula. That could limit strengthening somewhat. But again, I really think it may get close, but I don't think it's going to get quite close enough to cause any significant a hindrance to the storm's development here. But again, if for some reason it does go right over the Yucatan Peninsula, that could help us out in limiting some of the intensification. So that's one potential fail-safe mode. Again, if the storm were for some reason to just stop strengthening right now and we only have a tropical storm entering the Gulf of Mexico, which I think is unlikely at this point, then that could help the storm maybe be a little more exposed as it interacts with some more dry air. Again, these are just a couple things that could help us out, but unfortunately, the forecast is still for a major hurricane upon landfall. Anywhere from Category 3 likely up to Category 4 is the most likely scenario. Could this be a Category 5? It could, but again, if I were to put the percentile here, I'd say it's just as likely it's a Category 5 as it is a Category 1 or 2. I really think Category 3 to 4 is going to be that sweet spot with this system, and it could be a higher end Category 4. But again, whenever you're talking a difference of 10 miles an hour between a weak 5 and a strong 4, the impacts are basically the same. So don't get too caught up in the exact number. Just know we're going to see big time impacts either way. All right, I did want to show a mesoscale model. This is the high resolution rapid refresh. And the reason I'm showing this is because I want you folks specifically, again, Washington, Georgia, Western South Carolina, kind of Oconee, Pickens County, up through Transylvania County, Jackson County, into some of these upslope areas of Georgia and the Carolinas. I'm very concerned about a flooding threat, and that doesn't start with Helene. That starts now. Unfortunately, we kind of have a stalled out frontal boundary that is really just struggling to push east here and kind of setting itself up right over the Appalachia chain here. We're going to get a bit of a kind of 1-2 punch as Helene approaches. You're going to get a lot of this Atlantic moisture getting thrown northward, and even Gulf moisture that is going to kind of ride up against this front. And once you hit that front, you're going to get rising motion with plenty of precipitable water. We're going to get heavy rainfall rates. And to add insult to injury, again, some of the topography here is also going to support heavy rainfall. I think somebody here, again, in the mountains of South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia is going to get 12, maybe a foot and a half of rain between right now and by the time Helene is done, which is going to be more than enough to cause flash flooding concerns, landslide concerns. And I can tell you, somebody who grew up in the upstate in a small town that has a creek running through it, it doesn't take too much here in the mountains with heavy rainfall to get these creeks out of their streams. So you got to be ready if you live in a flood-prone area. Obviously check with local emergency management and their recommendations. But if you're somewhere that normally floods in that region, I would consider staying with a friend the next couple nights, specifically really starting Thursday through Friday. Again, especially since some of this is going to move through during the overnight. I don't want you falling asleep and waking up with water in your house. Unfortunately, water is one of the number one killers whenever it comes to inland impacts. It's not the wind, which again we'll talk about, but it's that flooding that really unfortunately takes so many lives. So I want you to be prepared for that and just know it's coming. So let's take a look at it. Overnight tonight, again, look at all these showers and storms. We're working through the I-85 corridor from Virginia all the way down through upstate South Carolina into northeast Georgia. Heavy rainfall up through the escarpment into Virginia and West Virginia, and then heavy rain back towards Alabama too. And some of these storms, again, could become strong to severe. We've already had a couple severe thunderstorm and tornado warnings today. Now we go through the evening and look at how this rain just kind of persists. Again, it's going to come in waves. It's going to move on through Virginia, getting some rain there. But by the time we're waking up tomorrow, this is when I think that training effect could begin for some communities. Look at this front here, just kind of stalling out. And then here comes Helene, bringing all of that moisture in off of the Atlantic and Gulf. And watch what happens tomorrow afternoon. We just get this squeeze play, and we just get heavy rain throughout the afternoon up through North Georgia, the western upstate of South Carolina. Again, specifically Oconee, Pickens, and Anderson County, up through the escarpment, heavy rain through Brevard, Cherokee, Cullowhee, into these communities. And that's the beginning of it Wednesday. And then we keep on moving, keep on moving, keep on moving. This just shield rain continues to work northward. And then obviously you folks into Florida as well. Look at this. We're getting into Wednesday evening, really Wednesday afternoon, I'll say. And we're beginning to see these feeder bands from the storm kind of working in, bringing a bit of a tornado threat, some gusty winds, and some heavy rainfall as well. So again, the impacts are not far away at all, and they're knocking right on the doorstep here. All right, I got a lot of comments here. Let's see if I can keep up. Got a couple comments about the track, and I will say this. Obviously, little wobbles matter for where the storm is going to go, but overall speaking, you're going to get a wobble one way, and then you're going to get a wobble the other way, so it'll kind of balance itself out a little bit, I think, in the near term. Now, once we get towards the final hours on approach to Florida, then yeah, the wobble matters big time for exact landfall, but I wouldn't read too much into little wobbles right now. Again, it's going to wobble one way. We had a big wobble southwest earlier, and now it's kind of wobbling back towards the north a little bit. So we'll kind of see what happens there. But again, just kind of talking about all that rain even before Helene gets here. And then we'll kind of zoom on into a little bit more direct impacts. Actually, let's go back to the other map because we can use this pretty well for you folks into Florida. All right, so again, we talked about the prefrontal rain inland. You folks into Florida, though, again, Wednesday afternoon, today was kind of your last day to really completely prepare. Tomorrow, it won't be bad in terms of, we won't see hurricane conditions tomorrow, but these squall lines will begin to work on through, starting through the West Coast. Again, anyone watching through the Keys, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, up through Tampa Bay, into Pinellas County there, this rain working on through. And this goes back to what I talked about, this being a big storm size-wise. The storm's still down near the Yucatan and Cuba, but we're getting rain funneled all the way north into Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas. Now, you could argue some of this isn't necessarily from Helene, but still, you get the point. The general synoptic features here are working together to really bring heavy rainfall quite far north. All right, we continue this ahead through the overnight Wednesday into Thursday. This is when things really begin to go down here through the west coast of Florida. Storm surge is going to increase. Heavy winds are going to really pick up here. A tornado threat, and then we continue that through the morning of Thursday. And then by the time we get through Thursday afternoon, here comes the storm. And you'll notice on this model, you're seeing a dry slot show up. So like I said, dry air could be there and help us out. But right now, I'm kind of the thinking that there won't be quite this much dry air in the storm like this model is showing. But we'll watch. We'll definitely take note of it as well. All right, let me move this all the way ahead into time and kind of pick this up where we left off Thursday afternoon. Again, a deepening, strengthening storm system here down near 970 millibars at this point, so getting near major hurricane status here on the GFS. And you'll notice, again, some dry air trying to funnel into the storm on some of the models. So we'll see if that's a trend that continues. We'll hope it is. That will help weaken it a little bit and also lower some of those rain impacts through the state of Florida. But either way, here comes a storm. We get landfall. I think most likely probably we'll say 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. That time frame right into, again, kind of the Big Bend and Panhandle, seeing the storm work right in. And then this is when impacts really go downhill inland. So through the afternoon Thursday, I know we're going to have a lot of questions about school closures through Georgia and the Carolinas. I think anything Thursday night will probably get canceled into portions of South Georgia, southern South Carolina. They might just cancel the whole day, but any kind of sporting events, I know Thursday night is normally middle school football nights. I can't imagine many games getting played here through Georgia and South Carolina, just one due to the rain, but also they're probably not going to want people driving out on the roads with a storm coming in the first place. So we'll see what decision everyone makes. Again, I can tell you no superintendent of any school district contacts me for these decisions. So obviously they're going to contact the experts and get a good answer. But just off of personal experience, I would expect a good amount of some school closures in that time frame. But here comes the storm. Again, moves inland. And this is what's so impressive about this system is the speed of it. This is landfall, we'll say 8 p.m. Thursday. This is 2 a.m. Friday. The storm has moved from the Florida Gulf Coast all the way up to near Augusta, Georgia in a mere 6 hours. So if we have a category, even if we just have a category 3 at landfall, or I say weak, that's not a good word, a low end category 3, this could still be a category 1 hurricane through all of South Georgia. And then we've still got a tropical storm inland through North Georgia and South Carolina here during the early morning hours of Friday. And then by the time we wake up on Friday, it's over Knoxville. So this thing is absolutely booking it. So it's going to be a quick hitting storm on the backside. Now, again, on the front, we're going to have plenty of prefrontal rain, but the worst of the wind is going to be quick hitting, but very hard hitting. So expect a good 2 to 3 hours of tropical storm force sustained winds with gusts into upper tropical storm strength. And again, we'll look at it here in a second. But then the storm moves inland, and then luckily we actually get a little bit of some Fujiwara effect going on here between an upper level low and this system that kind of combine, and then that upper level low kind of kills Helene by Saturday and Sunday, and conditions should improve pretty rapidly. All right, I did tell you I'd show you a hurricane model, and let's see, we have 18Z beginning to run, so let's see, can we actually show you 18Z? How far out are we going to go? You know what? This is the H-Wharf. We're going to go ahead and we'll come back to this. We'll give it some time to run, and then we'll come back and take a look at that towards the end. So let's go ahead and skip ahead of stage. So again, stay tuned. You'll have the latest, newest hurricane model that's coming out right now here in just a moment. All right, exact track. I'm going to show you some ensembles here because I think this is doing a pretty good job, the European ensembles. You'll notice anywhere from, we'll say, Appalachia Bay to, let me pull up my map before I lie to you about exact town names, but probably the Cedar Key area. Funnily enough, for anyone who's unaware, I'm technically from Florida, but I'm from Fort Myers, so the kind of Panhandle and Big Bend is not my specialty. Yeah, we'll say anywhere from Cedar Key to Apalachicola and kind of the Appalachia Bay area. Landfall likely right in that range. Again, the middle of this consensus kind of brings us right up through the Tallahassee area and then pulls it northward through South Georgia, through Valdosta, and then gets this up into North Georgia, which would bring the center probably between Atlanta and Greenville-Spartanburg and would bring the worst of the impacts in this corridor from Augusta, Greenville, Spartanburg, Charlotte, Columbia, back down towards southern South Carolina, and then into western North Carolina through Hickory, Statesville, Asheville, and then maybe even up into the Knoxville area before the storm weakens considerably over the Ohio River Valley. So again, that's kind of latest number there. Wow, we've got 400 people watching. That is probably a new record on the channel, so thank you, everybody. Again, it means the world. If you're new and you're just joining us, let me know where you're watching from, and we're going to get to all the questions, I promise. We're almost done looking at the graphics. Again, just want to try to answer as many questions as I can in the beginning, then I'll take more specific questions. But again, give me 1 second. I'm going to take a sip of some tea. By the way, if you haven't seen it, this is my Are You Serious mug. Let me see if I can bring that up near the camera. Focus on it. I was on a podcast with a news station in Myrtle Beach, WMBF. So if you haven't seen that, that's linked somewhere on the channel where I talk about storm chasing and the YouTube thing and all that. So if you want to know a little bit about me, you can always tune into that. And shout out to everyone down there at WMBF. There you go, Silver Ace. Hit that like button and subscribe. I keep forgetting to mention that part as well. Like, hit the like button, subscribe, share, comment, all the things. All right, let's go ahead and get back to things, and then we'll get back to some of these questions. All right, I guess I should have shown this before I took my little tea break there. But this basically shows the same thing as the other map I just showed. This is potential tracks, and I'll go ahead and zoom it in a little bit more. Again, I know it's kind of hard to see, but you get the point. This hits right into the Big Bend / Panhandle, kind of right near the Tallahassee area, moves up through the Atlanta metro. I will say, I think this could shift east a little bit. I think this could do something a little bit closer to this, kind of through the Athens area more than the Atlanta area. Is my personal opinion, but either way, you get the point. We've got good consensus. The track is not something that we're worried about. So I know we've had questions about Ian. Again, I can tell you, you don't see a single model run here that does anything like this, like Ian did. You don't see a single model run that takes us right into Tampa Bay. I think the furthest this could get would be Cedar Key. and then again, kind of here towards the Apalachicola area. So you'll notice the members here are skewed towards the west from my thinking and the NHC thinking. So again, into this area, you're going to need to watch it. And obviously, the worst of it's going to be on this kind of eastern quadrant of the storm. It's going to be the worst of the surge here through the entire west coast of Florida, probably. Going to see some surge. And then also, I'll mention some surge up here into the Savannah area. Could see up to 1 to 3 feet. So again, kind of talking about that. Speaking of surge, perfect segue, couldn't have planned that better. Let's go ahead and take a look at some surge forecast. And I will go ahead and say the number one killer in tropical systems worldwide is storm surge. It's not the wind. It's not the tornadoes. It's not whatever lightning you see. It's the storm surge. You can run from the wind. You cannot run from water. And that's why we have all these sayings: turn around, don't drown. And then, I could go on and on with plenty of acronyms in here stuff. But if you're under a mandatory evacuation order, do it. Leave. I know plenty of people in Fort Myers that unfortunately had the warning. And I think there was some miscommunication with that storm as well, with who would see the worst impacts. But again, people in Fort Myers thought, I can tough this one out. And then next thing you know, they're swimming in the Gulf of Mexico trying to find higher ground. And I can tell you that from personal stories I've heard from family down that way, videos I've seen on the internet. If you're told to leave, leave. It's just the smart thing to do. There's nothing a meteorologist hates more than telling you you're going to get storm surge, you not leaving, and then you losing your life or, anything else like that. That's really the worst feeling. So if someone tells you to leave, please just leave. With that said, here are the totals. So we're expecting potentially more than 12 feet of storm surge here through the Big Bend of Florida. And if somebody wants to try to help me pronounce this name, I have been thinking about it all day and I can't get it. Maybe this one. This is going to be embarrassing. Ocklackney River, maybe. We'll try that one. So either way, though, right here into the Big Bend of Florida, again, through Perry, Cedar Key, that region, we're going to get big time flooding. It could be catastrophic for some people. And unfortunately, this is an area Idalia went through. This could be worse than Idalia just due to the size of the system, storm surge wise. But even down the coast, Tampa Bay, 5 to 8 feet of storm surge. That's not something to write off. Down through towards Fort Myers, 3 to 5 feet of storm surge. I remember with Debbie earlier this year, we had storm surge flooding there, and that was an even weaker storm than this one. So the entire west coast of Florida, from Indian Pass all the way down to the Keys, is going to see some storm surge of some significance out of this system. And then again, even up from Jacksonville through Tybee Island, Savannah, up through the South Santee River, through Charleston, Edisto Beach, a couple feet of storm surge as well as possible, even though the storm's in the Gulf of Mexico, which just goes to show you just how large this system is and the impact it's having on our weather through a wide spanning time frame. All right, another storm surge map I'll show you. This is a product I absolutely love from the National Hurricane Center. This shows kind of the 50th percentile of storm surge chances. So this is the highest chance you've got a 50-50 shot of seeing. So just to kind of explain it a little bit more, I'll zoom into the Big Bend and the key. Oh, I guess you can't really see it. Let me scroll this up so you can see the key. The key at the top there, these kind of green colors you see, you've got a 50% chance of seeing, actually, you know what? Let me do 60. Well, they don't have 60. Well, we'll keep it on 50. Here, again, you've got at least a 50-50 shot of seeing 9 to 11 feet of storm surge. And I'll go ahead and read some communities here. Just kind of here up towards the Beverly Hills area. Again, not that far inland, but the coastal areas into this region. Perry, Cedar Key. Again, here's Cedar Key. I think that could be a place that really gets it rough here. Suwanee, that area of Florida. Horseshoe Beach could get a lot of storm surge out of this. Steinhatchee. And again, if I mispronounce any of these, I apologize. But it really here through the U.S. Highway 19 corridor. And the coastal areas along this corridor are going to get it rough from Perry all the way down to Cross City, expecting big time storm surge. And just the shape of the coast doesn't help us at all. Other areas, again, kind of what I showed you on the previous map. So that kind of does a pretty good job. And I'll show you one more map here for storm surge, and then we'll move on. Let's see if I can find it. I'm going to have to pull it up. So you know what? You get to look at this map one more time, which I know doesn't look very exciting right now anyway. Let's see. Helene, storm surge, inundation. Yes, I know. Continue. Let's see. Inundation layer only. All right, let's see if I can pull this up. All right, so this is one more map I'll show you, and this is just to show you how far inland, 11 feet of storm surge can be in the state of Florida. So let me zoom in here to the Big Bend. This is what and all is going to be underwater. And you'll note here, Let me zoom into Cedar Key, for example. If you're watching in Cedar Key, really you need to leave, because look at how far inland this is going to go. This is a swampy, low-lying area, and granted, the entire state of Florida is, but this area specifically is, very low-lying and swampy. So we get all of this push of water inland, and it's going to push well inland, specifically through some of these creeks here and streams and rivers. This is going to go all the way up into the Cross City area near Old Town, Florida. Look at this river coming out of its banks, all from the Gulf of Mexico, all of this salt water getting pushed inland. And this is what a Category 3 storm that's the size of Helene can do, pushing all of this water well inland. So like I mentioned, if you're under a mandatory evacuation order, I'll even go back down towards the Tampa Bay area. Potential flooding here. Again, much of the region potentially could be underwater due to this. Back here towards kind of some of these isles near the Clearwater area, Palm Harbor, the St. Pete area, Gulfport, I don't know what the name of that is, something beach, it's kind of covered up there, but again, here through the Pinellas County area, and then into Tampa Bay, look at all of this water trying to kind of move inland. Again, the Fort Myers area, down through Cape Coral, Bonita Springs, going to see some pretty good storm surge out of this. Again, Fort Myers, I expect to see more videos of flooding tomorrow evening in this region as the storm moves inland. And could cause plenty of unfortunate scenes here. So again, just need to reiterate, storm surge is the number one threat with this system, as it is with almost any major hurricane, especially in the state of Florida. And states like Louisiana, this isn't the coast of Maine where you get up to 10 feet in elevation, 5 feet off the beach. It takes a while. And again, with 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, this is going miles inland here through the Big Bend. So I just really want to drive that point home and make sure that we're all on the same page. All right, speaking of water and speaking of flooding and speaking of floating away here, inland rain is going to be a big threat through the southeast. Look at this big corridor of rainfall, and I will. Sorry, I'm getting roasted for the names in my on my phone right now. Which again, like I said, I was gonna mess up some of those names. So if I'm ever a meteorologist in Florida, I'm gonna need to take a look at that, and we'll say for sure. Sorry, I'm gonna take another sip of tea here, and then we'll get to the freshwater flooding. All right, got somebody asking about the Pensacola area. We can go ahead and answer that question real quick. Let me remind myself exactly where Pensacola is. I know that might be slightly embarrassing, but again, a lot of geography on the head. Yeah, okay, so Pensacola. That's all the way on the other tip of the Florida Panhandle. So I think luckily for you in Pensacola, you're on kind of the offshore side of the storm, so I wouldn't worry too much about storm surge there. And again, if we go back to the map from the NHC here, you'll notice nothing back out that way. It's really Mexico Beach down, specifically Indian Pass down through the west coast that's going to see the storm surge. So back towards Destin, Pensacola, Panama City, I don't really think this is going to be your storm in the storm surge department. Still some gusty winds and some heavy rainfall, sure. But I wouldn't have to worry too much about the ocean coming to get you, luckily. All right, again, we are at a ton of watchers, so thank you folks so much. Really does mean a lot. And again, if you haven't already subscribed, do it, like the video, or the live stream, I guess it is, and share with somebody. All right, here we go. Let's talk about some inland flooding and some inland rainfall threats. So again, this is the latest from the Weather Prediction Center. A big swath of potential rainfall here through the Big Bend of Florida, through Apalachicola, but it's really inland that I'm worried about the flash flooding threat. But I'll mention, again, through Tampa, Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, half a foot of rain, not off the table here by the time all is said and done. But it's this swath through specifically Georgia, upstate South Carolina, and southwestern North Carolina I'm concerned about. And let's dive into some communities here and look at this a little bit more. So Atlanta, Macon, Columbus, Noonan, Georgia, half a foot of rain, not out of the question. Back over towards Albany, Valdosta, again, half a foot of rain, not out of the question. But once you get up towards North Georgia, I'm talking to you folks in Toccoa, Rabun County, and kind of these other areas of these higher elevations, you're going to get, I'll be honest, someone in here is going to get more than a foot of rain. Somebody could get more than 14, 15, 16 inches of rain. Don't rule it out between what's about to fall tonight and tomorrow and what fell today and then what's coming with Helene. We're going to see pretty big freshwater flooding issues here. So again, Athens clocking in at about 7.8 inches. Again, I'm gonna actually, no, we'll move the map in a second. Let's talk about South Carolina. Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Florence, through the PD, back down through the coastline. Luckily for you, you've seen plenty of storms this year. This one, you'll get some gusty winds, you'll get some rain, you'll get a tornado threat, but I don't think flooding is going to be as big of a deal that way, and thank the Lord for it, because Wilmington and kind of the Carolina Beach area got absolutely rocked a week or two ago by potential tropical cyclone 9, which we all thought would become Helene. Now here we are with actual Helene formed. So again, good news for you folks, but still some rain on the way. It's really the I-77 corridor westbound, Greenville, Spartanburg, Lawrence County, Abbeville, Greenwood, Union County, up the I-85 corridor through Cherokee into Gaffney County there, through the Rock Hill area. I think that's where we could see more than half a foot of rain before all is said and done. And we pull this north into North Carolina and Virginia. Again, this is where I'm most concerned. I'll go ahead and draw the area that I am most concerned about flash flooding right up into this region. Walhalla, Pickens, Travelers Rest, up the Highway 11 corridor into upstate South Carolina through Table Rock, Mount Sassafras, up into Brevard, back down into the Lake Toxaway area. Again, a lot of rain here. Someone in that region is going to get more than a foot of rain. I can basically guarantee you now. In fact, it may very well be the weather observation right on top of Table Rock. And unfortunately, what falls here is going to have to flow back downstream. So the Saluda River I'm worried about, the Catawba River I'm worried about. A lot of these western Carolina mountain streams that flow into some of these bigger rivers could really come out of their banks with all of this rainfall. But even you folks up into Southwest Virginia, Danville, Roanoke, Blacksburg, a good 3 to 5 inches of rain out of this with some very gusty winds is going to be a concern, with lesser totals back towards the beaches. All right, the moment you have all been waiting for, probably, wind gusts. Let's go ahead and talk about it, and then after that, we'll open up the floor to questions. I'll answer all the questions you got, and then I'll let you go with the rest of your Tuesday evening, because it's Tuesday. That's what day of the week it is. All right, so here we go. Here's the winds. We'll bring this into, well, let's go ahead and start tomorrow afternoon. So Wednesday, again, you'll notice I expect some feeder bands to begin to work on in at this point, but winds remain pretty calm. It's not till Thursday morning here. This is when the worst of the winds kind of begin to work on in, and these are wind gusts, I should add. This is not sustained winds. These are gusts, but here through the west coast of Florida, again, kind of Cape Coral northbound, into the Tampa Bay region. You could see wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour during the morning hours of Thursday, and progressively getting worse by the afternoon. At this point, gusting up into upper tropical storm strength, up near 60, 70 miles an hour. And that could definitely cause some problems. This will be the worst of the storm surge at this point. Again, here's your storm. So we're getting all of these kind of streamlines, or just kind of the direction that the wind is blowing towards the coastline. And this is, again, when that storm surge will begin to increase pretty significantly. All right, I have my dad texting me currently telling me that my mom, who was born and raised in Florida, will be happy to fix my pronunciation on these town names. So thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. I'll make that phone call afterwards. Anyway, here come the wind gusts up the coastline, and here comes landfall. This is Thursday evening. Again, probably ballpark 8 o'clock, give or take a couple hours, as when we'll get official landfall with Helene. And this will be the worst of the storm surge for the Big Bend. I mean, we've got strong winds, again, potentially gusting up near 100, 115, maybe more than that miles an hour, bringing all of this water inland. And then obviously taking down a lot of these big trees. I can tell you my good buddy Mitch West chased a dahlia down here, and he had a heck of a time getting home because of all those trees that fell due to those strong winds. So again, it's, we're close to the coast here, but we still got plenty of vegetation that is not quite built for it. Now, this is when I'm getting very concerned for inland impacts. Look at this. This is the very late very late evening of Thursday into that midnight, 2 a.m. time frame on Friday. These wind gusts through South Georgia, I mean, we're gusting up near 80, maybe 90 miles an hour, well inland into the Valdosta area. Winds gusting up towards tropical storm strength into the Augusta and Macon area. And then look at this. We get towards midnight. I mean, this is... Someone may break some wind records, I'll be honest with you. From tropical system induced winds, this is almost going to have a Hugo effect too. And I don't want to compare it to Hugo directly. Obviously, it's a very different storm, very different locations. But it's similar to the fact just how quickly this storm is racing. I mean, this is a matter of 6 hours. It goes from landfall all the way up to the heart of Georgia. And then by the time we get into the early morning hours, we've got wind gusts potentially near hurricane force strength mixing down to the surface here through upstate South Carolina. And again, I would not be surprised to see this at about 850 millibars So about a kilometer and a half, or about a mile above our heads, winds are ripping at 100 miles an hour. You get all of that very heavy tropical moisture. What happens is it pulls it down to the ground. We start mixing the wind to the surface, and we get these big time wind gusts that are going to take down trees. They're going to take down power lines. Again, it's a part of the country, I can tell you, we haven't had a big windstorm in upstate South Carolina for a couple years now. So we've got plenty of dead trees waiting to get taken on down, and it'll do it for sure. Into that region. The good news with the fast forward motion, though, is it gets out of here pretty quickly. So you're getting it really rough about 4 or 5 a.m. in the upstate and western North Carolina. We get to the afternoon and, it's done. I mean, the rain could be gone. The winds could be breezy for sure. But overall, the threat shifts up towards the Ohio River Valley. So we'll pick up there. Here we go. Friday, again, very early morning hours, probably when most people are still sleeping, unless this wakes you up. Look at this, right? Again, on the right-hand side of the storm, that eastern side. So you folks watching in Huntsville, Birmingham, not your storm for wind, I don't think, as again, this kind of moves inland. And I'll note, obviously, the center of the storm is going to affect this. If it's where this is shown, then this is where we'll get the worst wind. If it shifts over towards the Alabama area, then this will all shift that way. If it shifts and goes right over upstate South Carolina, then this will all shift towards the Charlotte metro. Again, this is why the track inland is so important. And by the way, thank you for the $4.99 donation. Let's go ahead and read that question. I'll answer it right now, just since you were nice enough to do that. Tell you how the hurricane will affect Hazelhurst, Georgia. By the way, awesome job on the stream today. I watch all of your videos and streams. Well, first of all, thank you for always tuning in, Michael. Sorry, I think it's Michael. I have to zoom in here. Michael Hayes, yes. Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, we can look at Hazelhurst, Georgia. Again, I'm going to have to pull up my handy-dandy atlas on my phone and find out exactly where Hazelhurst, Georgia is. All right, for anyone wondering, Hazelhurst, Georgia, in case that's kind of near you, that's going to be right here into eastern Georgia. So let's go back one map for Hazelhurst, Georgia, and kind of dive into those impacts a little bit more for you. Again, going to be right into this region. So surrounding communities near Hazelhurst is going to be kind of north of Waycross here, south of the Highway 16 corridor, south of Dublin, and then kind of to the west of Savannah by probably about an hour or so. So again, into this region, yeah, Michael, you're going to get some big time winds out of this storm and some heavy rainfall. I'm worried about both. Specifically the winds here. Look at this. I mean, again, into this region, we're getting winds gusting up near hurricane strength still at this point for our overnight Thursday into Friday. So the sun will be down when this is happening. It could be quite eerie. You could lose power. And then there's going to be very heavy rain as well out of this for sure. So, maybe upwards of half a foot of rain depending on exact track, and very gusty tropical storm conditions during the overnight Thursday into Friday into that region. And then luckily, I think by Friday afternoon, you're pretty clear down there in that area of Georgia. So kind of some good news there. But again, it's gonna be rocking and rolling for a good hour or two for sure. So thank you again, Michael. Appreciate that. All right. So going back to the Ohio River Valley here, and then after that, I'll go back and answer all the questions, and then again let you go. So something kind of new with the models is bringing this wind a little bit further inland, and I'll tell you, I'm skeptical of this. Because basically what's going to happen is, again, we're going to get kind of a Fujiwara effect. So we've got this big upper level low over portions of Arkansas. We've got to what will be, let me redraw where Helene will be. Helene will be kind of right here. And we've also got a very big ridge of high pressure. So what's going to happen with Helene is, I think once it gets north of kind of this line right here, it's going to get shredded pretty quickly. It's going to get absorbed by an upper level low. It's going to get kind of ripped apart by high pressure there that is messing with that center of circulation, and it's going to run right over the Appalachia chain, which, by the way, this storm could really affect our fall foliage into the Carolinas. If you had a trip planned in October, this could put a dent in that for sure, which obviously is not the number one concern or priority here. We have, bigger concerns, but it is something worth mentioning here. But again, I'll note the latest GFS does bring these strong winds further inland. I mean, we've got really gusty winds over portions of Kentucky Friday, and then even up through the Ohio River Valley before by Friday evening, it kind of pivots all the way back through Missouri. So I'm not buying that too much. I think anything north of this point right here, I would be skeptical of those high winds. But it's something that we will definitely watch. Alrighty, well, that's the presentation I had planned, if you will. Again, if you got any questions you want to throw my way, let's go ahead and just kind of look at this thing spin away for a little bit while we're waiting. We'll even update the page. So, all right, let's go ahead and let's see if I can look at some of these questions. Let me pull my laptop here nice and close. All right. All right, I do have a couple Charlotte, North Carolina questions, and as somebody who lives in Charlotte and goes to school in Charlotte and all those things, we can talk about Charlotte. For Charlotte, I'll mention, I think the biggest thing is going to be the track of the system is going to play a big role in exactly the levels of wind that we get. So let me move this over to the Mid-Atlantic, and we'll take a look at Charlotte. Let's see here. Move to that. All right, this will work. So again, if you're unfamiliar, Charlotte is right here. This is Mecklenburg County. I'll even go ahead and circle it for you, the Charlotte Metro, kind of right there into that kind of black circle on your screen. So the big key for Charlotte, again, is going to be the track of the storm. Let me move this ahead in a time. If we get a track right over upstate South Carolina, Charlotte will be right in the worst of it. We could, again, see wind gusts up near 70 miles an hour at times, mixing down to the surface. If the storm track is more over Atlanta, then that corridor of worst winds will be a little bit to the west of Charlotte, probably near Gastonia, Shelby, through Spartanburg, and kind of that region just to the west, back towards the Hickory area. So it's really going to depend on track. It's going to be a close call. I think no matter what, heavy rain and winds, just the severity of exactly how severe that'll be, we won't know for sure until probably Thursday when we see exactly where the storm is making landfall. So good question. Had some questions there about Charlotte. What impacts do I expect in Montgomery and Auburn, Alabama? So the Alabama area is a place, and let me set this down real quick. Yeah, so Alabama, luckily for you folks, you're going to get impacts. So let me go ahead and preface with that. But I think the rainfall map does it pretty good here. The center of the storm moving through Florida and Georgia really helps you out because you're on the less messy side of the storm. Not that it'll be calm by any means, but you notice we get a pretty sharp gradient here in the rainfall where Mississippi is getting almost nothing and Georgia's getting, half a foot to a foot of rain. So you're within that gradient. If you're close to the Georgia border, it'll be worse, specifically southeast Alabama, kind of near that Auburn area. Definitely could see some heavy rainfall and then maybe even some gusty winds. We'll take a look at the wind here. Let me back this up. Again, you'll notice the worst of the wind definitely over Georgia and South Carolina. Again, it could get gusty up near 30 miles an hour, but I think rain would be the bigger concern down there really through the entire eastern half of Alabama. Oh, yeah, we were going to show you the H-Wharf, weren't we? You know what, everyone? Let's take a look at that. And then we'll continue on. So, all right, latest hurricane model. It just came in. Let's see what we got here. So develops this, gets this into the Gulf of Mexico as a 977 millibar low pressure tomorrow morning into afternoon, and then continues to strengthen this down into 941 millibars, and then makes landfall into the Florida Panhandle and Big Bend, again around 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 p.m. there Thursday evening, and then pulls it northward right into North Georgia. And then look at this. I mean, this is big time rain, folks. This is big time wind right here into northeast Georgia, upstate South Carolina, along the Savannah River Valley here. It's that'll do it. That'll bring some power lines down. That'll bring trees down. And we've seen a lot of consistency in this model with that thought process. So that's the latest H-Wharf. Again, landfall is a strong, probably category 3 or 4 hurricane, kind of right in line with my forecast. Jacksonville impacts. Jacksonville definitely going to see some rain and wind. Again, luckily you're on the East Coast, not the West Coast, but a good couple inches of rain. A tornado threat, I should also add. Again, anywhere on that east side is going to have a tornado threat as well. Watch from Gastonia. Yeah, Gastonia, I'd watch out for sure. Again, especially a little west of the Charlotte metro, towards the Gastonia area. AccuWeather showing 81 mile per hour wind gusts for southeast Alabama. Yeah, I think, I think their track's probably a little closer to you, but if we look at the mean here, and again, I think this mean is even a little far to the west here. This is going through Georgia. I'd be very surprised if the center of this goes through Alabama, and it's going to be a sharp gradient, as always is with these storms with those winds. Anywhere to the west of the storm center itself is going to see much lesser impacts than the east. So again, I think wind gusts, closer to closer to probably 30 to 40 miles an hour compared to anything higher than that. Any chance that might change the track? Again, the models are pretty locked in here. I think if we see any shift, it'll be to the east a little bit. I don't think, again, I think the models they're handling this pretty well. Landfall into the Florida Big Bend, moving up through Georgia. Maybe it gets as far east as moves right through upstate South Carolina. That's a possibility I could see, but we'll know more as we get a little bit further ahead in time. It's pouring in Pickens County, South Carolina right now, thunderstorm and heavy rain. Again, that's a problem. We're getting a lot of rain ahead of this system itself. Sorry, I was reading something. Yeah, and that's the problem for you folks in Pickens County in that area. I mean, any rain you get before the storm is problematic. A question about Raleigh. Raleigh, again, you're a bit far from the center. If we take a look at the rainfall here, you could see, 3 to 5 inches of rain. Wind gust-wise, it'll be close. I think you could get close to tropical storm force wind gusts, but probably sustained about, 20 miles an hour, gusting to 30. But if the track does shift east, it could increase for sure. When is the next update? We get a new update from the National Hurricane Center at 8 p.m., new track at 11 p.m. Good question. All right, let me go. Will southern Indiana be affected by this? We could use the rain. So yeah, southern Indiana already getting some rain currently. This will move through that region for sure. And I can show you what map are we going to use here. You know what? We'll go and switch this to precipitation type. Regional, Ohio Valley. Yeah, Indiana, definitely some rain through southern Indiana out of this, I think, is a pretty safe bet. If we look at total rainfall, we'll pull this up on the fly as well from the Weather Prediction Center. Rainfall over the next week, now through Tuesday of next week. Yeah, I mean, look at that, southern Indiana. You got some rain coming for sure. A good couple inches for sure into that region. So I guess I can make that a little bit easier to see. Yeah, so definitely some rain for southern Indiana. Good question there. We can also look at real quick to see if Recon has found anything new with the storm. They went right through the center again, so let's see what they found. Yeah, pretty similar pressure here. Max winds. They did find much stronger winds here. Let me make it where you can see this. They are finding winds now of about 55 to 60 knots at the flight level. So probably 55 miles an hour at the surface, we'll say, that ballpark. So again, that deepening pressure indicating a higher wind speed, as we see with the laws there of meteorology, laws of thermodynamics. Tallahassee, yeah, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. You're under a what was I gonna say with Tallahassee? Yeah, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. I think you're under a hurricane watch, right? We can check that. Where we got that pulled up. Tallahassee, yeah, hurricane warning now for Tallahassee. So yeah, take it serious. And the track of this goes right over it from the storm, from the National Hurricane Center. How's the meteorology department at UNC Charlotte doing with this? I'm sure everyone is having a field day. Yeah, I can tell you my professor was quite happy and asked a lot of questions to the class today in synoptic meteorology. Because so basically every class we have two people that present the forecast, and the two lucky individuals that got it today had a boatload of questions. So yeah, everyone's obviously, I don't want to use the word excited because, we don't want people to lose property. We don't want people's lives to be at risk. We don't want, this to happen. But there is a nerd level, obviously, to every meteorologist that geeks out over it. So excited is not the word, but it's definitely a great learning experience for sure. Hey, we watch Mitch too. So yeah, fellow South Carolinian. Awesome. Yep, love Mitch. Spoiler alert, there's a chance you see some of me and Mitch this week doing some chasing. So we'll have an update on that coming ahead into time. So stay tuned. Maybe some South Carolinians might end up in Florida. We'll see. Yeah, talking about some flight movements. Yeah, that's going to happen with this one, unfortunately, for sure. Alrighty, folks, that was great. You know what? Actually, let's see. Where are we at in the subscriber count? Let me pull that up, and I know what you're seeing right now is just a black screen, but let me check. We may very well be quite close to a high number of subscribers. Let's see. 9,961. So again, folks, if you're not subscribed, we need 39 more, and we're at 10,000. So, if you want to be that person, I would love for you to join us. Again, very close to 10,000, which is a huge milestone. Started this channel a little less than 2 years ago, from the ground up. Although I will have to mention I had a lot of help from Mitch West, helping me kind of gain a base. And by the way, what football games, college and NFL, is this likely to affect? So that's a good question. Not many. I don't know where the Thursday night game is. Let me see where the Thursday night game is this week. If anything, that could see some effects. Let's see. Well, who's playing Thursday night? We're in week 4. Yeah, so that's Dallas, New York. That's not going to have any problems. Maybe some college games on Saturday, potentially into the Ohio River Valley. I think Friday night games could be a problem for high school. Thursday night games, again, any kind of middle school games going on Thursday night could be a problem as well. Yeah, Cowboys versus Giants. Yeah, so go Eagles, by the way. So I'm not a fan of the Cowboys or the Giants. Although I probably like watching the Cowboys lose more than the Giants, so I'll probably pull for the Giants in that one. All right. Yeah, we had a good stream there. Got a couple people that I think we answered most of the questions. If it doesn't look like I answered your questions, you can always go back. I answered some questions for other areas. Columbia, South Carolina. I don't know if I talked about Columbia. Columbia, again, you're going to get a good heavy rain, strong winds, tropical storm force winds very likely. Gusting up into upper tropical storm force is possible. Can you help me understand when they say something is moving west-northwest? I absolutely can do that for sure. Let's go to... Let's see, what would be a good... I guess this map will work for moving west-northwest. So whenever they say it's moving west-northwest, we'll go ahead and draw the center of the storm. It's this kind of little L that I have circled. If you just put a compass rose here and we go north, south, east, west, never eat soggy waffles, west northwest. So basically that means it's moving mostly west here, but it has a slight component to the north. So it's moving in that general direction. So if I move that area, or I guess you can't see the entire arrow, but if I move that over the center, that means it's moving generally in this direction towards the Yucatan Peninsula. Although, we can check to see what speed it's moving. I don't think it's moving very quickly. Let's see. That's moving at 12 miles an hour or 10 knots. It's moving at a pretty good clip. But so that's basically what that means. It's the direction it's moving, which can be confusing because when somebody says you have westerly winds, that means that's the direction the wind is coming from. But it's flipped with hurricanes. It's where it's going, not where it's coming from. Hello, got somebody watching from Greensboro. Hello, Tammy. Thanks for joining us. 360 something people watching. That is a lot of people. So again, thank you everybody. If you haven't already liked the stream, do so. Again, if you haven't subscribed, we are about to hit 10,000. You could be the lucky one. So I know I keep saying that, but let's take one more look at recon, and then I'll let everybody go here because again, I do want everyone to have some freedom with their life. So take a look at the wind field here really quickly. You can see the strongest of the winds. Let me pick the right thing. You can see the strongest of the winds here is on that eastern side. In fact, we had a couple, wind speeds here up near 60 knots at flight level. So again, not all of that reaching the surface, but we're seeing an intensifying wind field on that eastern side. So that's why Georgia, South Carolina, Florida, places to the east of the center of the storm, I'm more worried about than maybe a place like Alabama, which is kind of in this side where we're already seeing lower winds. And again, recon, that says 991. We'll see if I look at the actual chart, they found something a little bit stronger or deeper than that. This is, we've got to strengthen in storm, folks, for sure. This is getting down towards 987, 986 millibars at flight level. So they'll drop a drop sonde in here, and that'll get the exact surface level pressure. But it's, strengthening storm. We've dropped 15 millibars since this afternoon with the storm system. So, alrighty, folks. Yeah, that's all I got for you here on this. What day of the week is it? It is Tuesday. I keep having to remind myself. So yeah, stay tuned. Come back tomorrow morning. I'll have another video update for you then. I may go live again tomorrow night. We will see. Again, there's a chance I end up in Florida at some point. So I'll have to coordinate that with Mitch and find out when that's happening and how that's happening. But stay tuned to the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. And have a wonderful night. And I'll see you all tomorrow morning.